the room where she didn't belong. The glass doors of Harrington Tower reflected the skyline like a mirror made of money, the kind of building where the air itself seemed expensive. Black cars lined the entrance, chauffeurs waiting, high heels tapping, elevator doors opening to worlds most people would never enter. Inside, on the 52nd floor, the conference room was already full. A long marble table, gold fixtures, and a view of the city worth more than most people's lifetime earnings. At the head of the table sat Charles Harrington III, heir to a real estate empire, jaw sharp enough to cut glass, perfectly styled hair that looked like it came with a trust fund, and today, everything in this building was about one thing, a $750 million deal. A partnership that would take Harrington Global from being rich to ridiculous. But there was one complication. The deal didn't belong to Charles. It didn't belong to any of the billionaires sitting around that table. It belonged to Marcus Reed, the self-made CEO of Reed Tech, one of the fastest-growing AI firms in the world. A black man who built his company from a garage to a skyscraper, every mistake recorded, every success earned. Marcus walked in, quiet confidence in every step, followed by someone the room didn't expect to see. His daughter, Amara Reed, 17, braids, Converse, a university-level coding prodigy, and the reason her father's new product even existed. But to the room full of billionaires who believed they owned the world, she didn't look like she belonged. "Marcus," Charles said, standing but only halfway, as if the respect didn't fully reach his spine. "Good to finally have you here, and you brought a guest." "This is Amara," Marcus said. "She helped architect the core algorithm behind what we're licensing. She's here as part of the team." The room didn't hide it. The glances, the smirks, the silent arrogance of men raised to believe they owned gravity. A woman at the table leaned toward another and whispered, loud enough to be heard, quiet enough to deny. "Really? He brought his daughter? This is a $750 million deal, not take your kid to work day," the men chuckled. One of them muttered, "What's next? A lemonade stand on Wall Street?" Marcus heard it. Amara heard all of it, but she stayed still. Not a muscle shifted. Her face didn't crack. She had grown up around this world, not because she belonged to it, but because her father fought his whole life to force entry into it. She had seen the looks before. She had learned to build fire from them. Charles gestured to the chairs. "Let's get started." The meeting began. Slides projected, numbers discussed, projections debated. Marcus spoke with precision, outlining the software that would change the industry. Then Charles leaned back, voice casual. Too casual. "So, Marcus," he smiled, "all of this came from your team, right? Not a high school project?" A few people laughed. One man nearly choked on his sparkling water. Marcus didn't flinch. "Amara is not here for decoration. She wrote the predictive engine that powers our AI. Without her, there is no deal." The room went quiet, not out of respect, but out of disbelief. Then it happened. The moment, the insult that would echo through everything that came next. Charles leaned forward, elbows on the table, looking at Amara the way rich people look at something they think is cute but not serious. "So tell me, Amara," he smirked. "How does a little girl like you even understand software at this level?" She blinked once, slowly. Across the room, someone laughed. Another voice added, "Maybe she copied it from Google. Kids these days." "Or maybe she's just here so Daddy feels proud," another chimed. Marcus stood, but Amara put a hand on his arm. "Don't," she whispered. "Not yet." She turned to Charles, her tone calm, but her eyes sharp. "You know what's funny?" she said. "You think intelligence comes with age, but I've read your last 3 acquisition failures, so maybe wisdom doesn't come with it either." The room froze. Charles's smirk disappeared. "No, please," she continued, leaning in slightly. "Tell me more about what a little girl can or can't understand. I'm curious." The mockery turned to discomfort. Suddenly no one laughed. Marcus smiled. "Just a little." His daughter wasn't fragile. She was fire. But Charles wasn't done. "Oh, don't get offended," he said, waving a hand. "We joke. It's all fun." Nothing personal. And then he said it. The sentence that burned itself into the room. You have to admit, she doesn't look like someone who belongs at a table like this. Silence, like the air was made of ice. Marcus stood fully now, his voice calm but deadly. Deal or not, you will not disrespect my daughter. Charles raised his hands, mocking surrender. Relax. It's business. Don't be so emotional. Amara stared at the table. Her jaw tightened. Something inside her shifted. The kind of shift that doesn't break a person. It builds them. 20 minutes later, the meeting ended. Papers signed? Not yet. The final deal was scheduled to be executed after the weekend. Both sides would review, finalize, celebrate. The Harrington family walked out confident. They believed they still held all the power. They didn't know the storm they had just awakened. Because that night, everything changed. Not gradually, not quietly. It started when someone leaked a video, not of the deal, not of the software, but of that moment. Those words. That disrespect, and the world saw it. A billionaire mocking a black teenage girl in a corporate boardroom. The internet didn't stay silent. Within hours, hashtags spread. Journalists called. Investors panicked. Stock prices trembled, and before the sun rose, the Harrington empire had no idea that the deal they believed was already theirs, the deal that would make them untouchable, was about to collapse in public, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. But that wasn't the biggest twist, because while their PR team scrambled, while lawyers drafted statements, while Charles sharpened excuses, someone else was preparing to speak, and when she opened her mouth, the world would listen. Amara, the girl they mocked, the girl they dismissed, the girl they should never have underestimated. The video that shook the 1%. By sunrise, the video had already been shared more than 2 million times. It wasn't filmed professionally. It wasn't planned. It wasn't supposed to leave that room, but someone, maybe a junior employee, maybe a silent observer, had recorded the moment Charles Harrington looked across the table, smirked, and said, "She doesn't look like someone who belongs at a table like this." And the clip didn't just show the words. It showed everything, the tone, the dismissive laugh, the expression on Amara's face. It showed her not breaking. It showed her choosing dignity over reaction, and that was what changed everything. By 9:12 a.m., the story was trending on every social platform. Let Her Speak, Amara Reed, Billionaire bullying comment sections turned into battlefields. But the divide wasn't what anyone expected. Even people who normally admired wealth and power were forced to confront something uglier than money. Arrogance, entitlement, prejudice, because there was one truth no one could spin. A room full of billionaires mocked a teenage girl because she didn't look like what they believed intelligence should look like. And the world was tired of that story. Marcus Reed woke up to 312 missed calls, 500-plus unread messages, and a PR crisis that wasn't of his making, but was now sitting at his door. Not a crisis for him, a crisis for them. Amara sat at the dining table with her laptop open, calm, deliberate, already analyzing the storm. "You're not panicked?" Marcus asked. She didn't look up. "Why panic? We didn't do anything wrong." "But they'll spin it. They'll say it was edited, exaggerated, taken out of context." "Good," she replied. "Let them try." Marcus stared at her. The same quiet fire in her eyes he'd seen when she was 8 years, old and refused to let a teacher grade her. Science project before she corrected their math. "You know this can get messy," he said gently. "This is the Harrington family. They don't fight fair." She finally looked at him. "Neither do we." Meanwhile, inside Harrington Global Headquarters, Chaos had arrived wearing expensive suits. Charles slammed a stack of printed headlines onto the table. "This is ridiculous. I made a joke." "That's it. People are overreacting." His father, William Harrington, the kind of man who spoke like boardrooms bowed to him, didn't raise his voice. "People don't overreact when you insult a child in a boardroom, Charles. You handed them a weapon. And the media loves a villain. Across the table, their legal head cleared her throat. "Sir, we've already lost 3 investors this morning. They're calling the deal ethically unstable. Others are waiting to see how the Reeds respond." Charles scoffed. "They're not going to respond. They need us. They want the money. They'll stay quiet for the sake of the deal." The room stared at him like someone watching a man run toward a wall he didn't know was there. "Charles," his father said, "you don't understand something very important." "What?" "This isn't a boardroom scandal." William leaned forward. "This is America watching how we treated a black girl with genius-level intelligence." Silence. "And right now," William continued, "she has more public support than this family has in 2 generations. Charles's jaw tightened. "So what? We apologize? Pay them off? Settle it quietly?" "No," his father said. "You fix it. Fix it how? You call Marcus Reed. You apologize. You salvage this deal before it destroys us." Charles laughed. "I'm not apologizing to a teenager or her father." And that sentence sealed his fate. At 1:47 p.m., Marcus received an email from Harrington Global's legal team. It didn't contain an apology. It didn't even contain the word regret. It simply read, "We would appreciate a mutual statement to calm public reaction so the deal can proceed as planned." Amara read it over her father's shoulder. "They still think they're in control," she said. "They always do," Marcus replied quietly, "until they aren't." She tilted her head. "So we're canceling the deal?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. He had spent 25 years learning the rules of their world, the unspoken rules, the coded insults, the closed doors. He knew exactly how much power they held, and now he also knew they were bleeding. "No," he said finally. "We're not canceling." Amara raised an eyebrow. "We're not?" "No," he turned to her. "They are." That evening, Marcus and Amara walked into Reed Tech headquarters, not for a negotiation, not for crisis control, but for something else entirely. The press was already outside. Reporters, cameras, lights, all waiting for someone to speak, and they didn't wait long. Because at 7:03 p.m., the glass doors opened, and Amara Reed stepped out. No PR agent, no script, no fear. She took the mic someone tried to hand her, then set it aside. Her voice didn't need amplification. "I don't need anyone to defend me. I don't need anyone to rewrite what happened. The video showed the truth, and the truth is simple. Some people still believe power comes with the right to belittle others." She paused. The crowd leaned in. "But here's the thing about voices you try to silence. They don't disappear. They multiply." Phones rose higher. The world leaned closer. "You asked if I belong in that room." Her eyes sharpened. "And the answer is yes. Not because of what I look like, not because of my last name, but because I earned my seat. Respect is not a privilege. It's a baseline. And if a billion-dollar company can't understand that, they don't deserve to sit at any table. Not mine, not my father's, not the future's." The crowd roared. The internet exploded again, and inside Harrington Tower, silence. 2 hours later, the Harrington stock dropped 11%. Investors demanded answers. Board members whispered the word no CEO wants to hear: replaceable. But the real blow hadn't landed yet, because Marcus hadn't spoken, and when he finally did, it wasn't in front of cameras, it was in a boardroom, just like the one where they mocked his daughter. But this time, he owned the room. He walked in with a single document, the $750 million contract, unsigned. He placed it on the table and said just 3 words: "The deal's dead." Not paused. Not renegotiated. Dead. Charles shot to his feet. "You can't just walk away from this." Marcus turned slowly. "Watch me. You're destroying your own company." "No," Marcus said, calm as a storm before lightning. "I'm protecting its future. And my daughter's. You think you can replace us?" Marcus smiled. The kind of smile that made men like Charles shift in their seats. "I already did." The room stared. "What does that mean?" Charles demanded. Marcus stepped closer, lowered his voice, and dropped the final sentence like a detonator. "It means someone bigger just took your place. and they treat people with respect. Behind him, the doors opened, and in walked the last person the Harrington family ever expected, a rival billionaire, the one they feared, the one who now owned the deal they believed was theirs, and that was only the beginning, the partner they never saw coming. The doors didn't just open. They announced a shift in power so sudden, the air in the room felt heavier. Charles froze. William Harrington's jaw tightened. The board members, once confident in their legacy, now sat like statues watching history flip itself upside down, because the man who walked in wasn't just rich. He wasn't just influential. He was untouchable. Elias Grant, tech magnate, billionaire investor, founder of Grant Innovations, a company twice the size of Harrington Global, with 10 times the public respect, the kind of man who didn't chase power. Power followed him, and now he was standing beside Marcus Reed. Charles blinked, trying to regain control of the moment. What is he doing here? Marcus answered calmly. He's here because he believes in respect, and in talent, and in the future. Elias stepped forward, voice smooth, controlled, but unmistakably final. You mocked a 17-year-old genius, Charles, a girl who's already built more than most CEOs build in a lifetime. And you thought there would be no consequence? One board member whispered, "Oh my God." Charles scoffed, clinging to whatever arrogance he had left. You think you can just walk in here and replace us? Elias raised an eyebrow. You don't seem to understand. You were never needed. You were just the first ones offered. That sentence hit the room like a hammer. William Harrington slowly stood, face cold, voice low. Elias, we've worked with you before. You don't want to burn bridges. Elias looked at him, not with anger, with truth. You burned the bridge the moment you laughed at her. He turned to Marcus. Shall we? Marcus nodded. Together they walked toward the door, but Marcus paused, looked back, and said, You didn't just insult my daughter. You proved exactly why people like you can't lead the future, because the future doesn't look like you. It looks like her. And then he was gone, leaving the Harrington Empire sitting in silence. A silence made of something colder than failure, irrelevance. The story exploded again, not because of the deal, but because of what it symbolized. 2 billionaires, one driven by ego, the other by principle. A young black girl at the center, not as a victim, but as the reason the world chose a side, and the headlines didn't hold back. Billion-dollar deal walked out over. Disrespect. Teen genius replaces CEO level. Partnership. Power shift in corporate America. Values now. Have a price tag. Investors who once flocked to Harrington Global vanished. Stockholders demanded accountability. And suddenly, Charles Harrington, once the golden heir, was being called something new. The man who mocked the future and lost it. Meanwhile, Reed Tech was buzzing, not just with cameras and attention, but with possibility. The partnership with Grant Innovations wasn't a backup plan. It was a catapult. Bigger funding, wider global reach, ethical alignment, and at the center of it, Amara. No longer just the girl in the room. No longer the CEO's daughter. But the name everyone was suddenly trying to pronounce. Correctly, Amara Reed. News anchors called her the quiet prodigy. Engineers called her the next Ada Lovelace. Teenagers called her proof it's possible. But in the Reed household, life wasn't glamour. It was quiet, focused, strategic, which is exactly why, days after the story exploded, Marcus knocked on his daughter's bedroom door. Can I come in? She looked up from her screen. Dozens of emails, interviews, invites. Yeah, he stepped in, sat beside her, and for the first time since the scandal began, he looked almost hesitant. You handled yourself better than most adults I know, he said softly. I'm proud of you. She smiled, then frowned a little. You're proud because I didn't get angry? No, he said. I'm proud because you didn't let their disrespect make you smaller. She took a breath. I'm not sure what happens now. That, he said, is the best part. You get to decide. She didn't realize it yet, but she had walked out of that room not just with her dignity, but with something far bigger, a platform and a choice. While Amara was choosing her next move, the Harrington family was watching their kingdom splinter. Inside a private boardroom, tension filled the air like smoke. "We've lost 22% of our market value in 4 days, the CFO reported. "Analysts are predicting a collapse if the Reed Tech deal isn't replaced." "It was replaced," Charles snapped, "by a snake who stole it from us." "Please," a board member said, exhausted. "Stop talking. Every time you open your mouth, the stock drops another %. William finally spoke, the voice of a man whose legacy was slipping away. "You will issue a public apology." Charles recoiled. "I'm not apologizing to that kid. I didn't do anything wrong. People are too sensitive." "That kid cost us $750 million, William cut in. "And she's about to cost us the company." Charles stood furious. "So that's it? You want me to bow down? To them?" "No," William said. "I want you to grow up." The room was still. Then slowly, painfully, the truth settled into the silence. Charles Harrington was the reason the empire was falling, and for the first time in his life, he couldn't buy his way out. Meanwhile, in a quiet cafe miles away, Elias Grant and Marcus Reed sat across from each other, papers signed, futures aligned. "You know what's funny?" Elias said, stirring his coffee. "What?" "This partnership didn't happen because I saw potential in your technology." He smiled. "It happened because I saw potential in your daughter." Marcus nodded slowly. "She is the future." "No," Elias corrected. "She represents the future. The difference is important." Then he leaned in, lowering his voice. "But there's something you should know, Marcus. The story isn't over." "What do you mean?" Elias tapped his phone. A notification flashed. "You and Amara aren't the only ones who saw that video." Marcus frowned. "I know, the whole world saw it." "No," Elias said. "Not just the world." He turned the screen toward Marcus. It showed a headline. "Not about tech, not about business, but about legal action." Marcus read it. His blood went cold. A lawsuit, filed by the Harrington family, against Amara, for defamation, interference of contract, and reputational damage. She wasn't just being dragged into the fight. They were coming for her, personally. Marcus looked up, rage flickering behind his eyes. "They're suing my daughter?" "Yes," Elias said quietly. "And they're not just suing. They're trying to destroy her before she begins." Marcus sat back, ice forming in his chest. "They made one mistake already," he said. "They're about to make one more. But what none of them knew, not the Harringtons, not the media, not the world, was that Amara Reed had already made a decision that would turn the lawsuit into something far bigger. A public battle, a national debate, a movement no one saw coming, because she wasn't going to hide. She was going to fight. And when she spoke next, she wouldn't just defend herself. She would expose everything. The girl who wouldn't back down. The lawsuit didn't arrive in a quiet envelope. It arrived like a declaration of war, a printed stack 3 inches thick, delivered by 2 attorneys in tailored suits, stamped with the crest of Harrington Global, a crest that once symbolized power, but now felt like a threat carved in ink. Plaintiff, Harrington Global Holdings. Ink defendant, Amara Elise Reed. Age, 17. Marcus stared at the document, jaw clenched, fingers tightening with every page he turned. Defamation, interference of contract, reputational destruction. They weren't just suing her. They were trying to bury her. Not the company, not the software. Her, a teenage girl who dared to speak. Amara walked into the room as Marcus was still reading. She didn't look surprised. Not shaken, just calm. Almost too calm. "So they went through with it," she said. "You knew this was coming?" She nodded. "I didn't know the date, but I knew they couldn't let what happened go. Not without trying to make an example of me." Marcus stared at her, eyes full of a mix no parent wants to feel. Pride, fear, anger, helplessness. "You're 17, Amara. They're billionaires with a legal army. This isn't a debate anymore. This is war. She walked to him, placed her hand over the lawsuit cover page, and said quietly, "Then let's not play defense." The next 48 hours became a blur of legal meetings, strategy calls, and PR advisories. Lawyers warned them, this will get ugly. The media will twist everything. They'll bring up your school records, your personal life, even your mother. They were right, because within days, the headlines flipped, not in support, but in attack. Is Amara Reed really a genius? Experts question teen's role in Reed Tech software. Sources claim Reed used victim narrative to gain market power. Were Harrington execs set up? New lawsuit suggests orchestrated sabotage. Podcasts, bloggers, commentators, people who hadn't written a line of code in their life were suddenly analyzing her talent. People asked if she was too emotional, if she was hiding behind identity, politics, if she was really the one who built the algorithm or just taking credit, because when a girl outsmarts men with power, the world doesn't always cheer. Sometimes it doubts. Meanwhile, inside the Harrington estate, the mood was shifting, not in unity, but in fracture. Charles paced the room, triumphant. This is perfect. We're driving the narrative. She's getting exposed. People are already questioning her credibility. Once that falls, the New Deal falls, and Reed has nothing. William didn't respond. He just looked at his son, and for the first time, not with disappointment. "With fear. This isn't a business dispute anymore," William said. "This is a personal attack on a minor. People won't forget that." "You're overreacting," Charles scoffed. "No," William said quietly. "You underestimated her. Again." Charles rolled his eyes. "She's a kid with a laptop." "We're an empire." "And yet," William replied, "the empire is now suing a kid with a laptop." Even Charles didn't have a comeback for that. While the Harrington name was cracking from the inside, another battle was forming in public, not one Amara chose, but one she would have to face. One morning, as she walked into Reed Tech headquarters, a journalist outside shouted, "Amara, can you prove you actually built the software? Or is your father covering for you?" A second one added, "Are you planning to apologize in court?" She paused. That was the moment most people retreat. But Amara turned, slowly, fully, and answered, "No, I'm not apologizing. And I don't need to prove my intelligence to anyone who never questioned the men in that room." The clip went viral, again. But this time it wasn't just support. It was division. Some called her powerful. Some called her arrogant. Some called her the teenage Rosa Parks of tech. Some called her a spoiled CEO's daughter playing hero. And in the storm of voices, something deeper was happening. She was becoming a symbol, not of a scandal, but of a fight bigger than her, a fight about who gets to belong in rooms full of power. One night, long after the headlines had shifted into hyper-analysis, Marcus walked into Amara's room again. She was awake, sitting at her desk. But not coding, just staring at a blank document. "You're quiet," he said. She didn't answer. "Talk to me." She took a breath. "It's not the lawsuit. It's not the headlines. It's not them saying I'm not smart enough." He waited. "It's the fact that I finally understand something." "What?" "There will always be someone who thinks I don't belong. No matter how hard I work, no matter what I build." Marcus sat beside her. "Yes, there will." She turned to him, voice steady. "But I'm not fighting for them. I'm fighting for every girl who's going to walk into a room like that after me." He looked at her. Really looked. Not as a parent, but as a man who saw the next generation standing in front of him. "You're already stronger than I ever was," he said softly. She smiled. Small, tired, real, good. "Because this fight isn't about just winning," she closed the blank document. "It's about making sure they can't do this to the next girl." The trial date was set, public, televised, every news outlet already claiming they'd cover it live. But before that day came, something shifted. A message leaked, not from Reed Tech, not from the press, not from some anonymous whistleblower, from inside Harrington Global, a confidential email sent from one board member to another. "We cannot keep backing Charles. If this goes to trial, the truth will surface. And the truth is worse than the lawsuit. Amara read the leaked email twice. What truth? She whispered. Marcus read it. His face hardened. Something they don't want the world to know. About the lawsuit? She asked. No, he said slowly. About what really happened in that room, before the video. She looked up sharply. You think there's more? I think, Marcus said, the disrespect you heard was the polite part. Amara went still, because if that was the polite part. What were they hiding? Minutes later, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One-line message. I was in the room the whole time. I heard everything, and I'm ready to testify. Amara's heartbeat kicked. She typed back, Who is this? The reply came instantly. Someone who finally realized silence is complicity. And I won't be silent anymore. She showed the messages to Marcus. He read them. Then he said the sentence that turned the case upside down. We don't just have a defense anymore. He looked at her, a spark in his eyes. We have a witness. And somewhere, in the high floors of Harrington Tower, someone else received a message too. Not a warning, a threat. From Charles. If you talk, I will destroy you. But this time, fear didn't work. Because the witness had already chosen a side. And they weren't alone. The truth they tried to bury. The courthouse steps looked like a battlefield made of microphones and flashing lights. Reporters pressed forward. Camera shutters fired like rapid gunshots. Commentators live-streamed every breath, every entrance, every silence. But the moment everyone was waiting for was not the arrival of the attorneys, or the judge, or even Marcus Reed. It was the entrance of Amara, 17, braids tied back, no flashy outfit, no media advisor, just a girl carrying a laptop, and a truth the billionaires never wanted spoken. The lawsuit Harrington Global versus Amara Reed had become the most public corporate case of the decade, not because of money, but because of what it represented: power versus principle, privilege versus merit, old America versus the future. And for the first time, the outcome would not be decided behind glass towers. It would be decided in front of the entire world. Inside the courtroom, the tension was thick enough to suffocate. The Harrington legal team sat in a row, polished and confident, led by an attorney who billed more per hour than most people earned per month. Charles sat beside them, jaw tight, knuckles white, still convinced he would win by force, not truth. William Harrington sat farther back, silent, aged, watching everything collapse in slow motion, and then the door opened. Marcus and Amara walked in. The room went still, not because of power, because of presence. She didn't walk in like a victim. She walked in like someone who understood something the Harringtons never did. Respect is earned. Integrity is louder than money. And the truth is not afraid of rooms built to intimidate it. The proceedings began. The Harrington team attacked first, aggressive, rehearsed, confident. They questioned Amara's credentials. They suggested she exaggerated her role. They implied she benefited from media sympathy. Then they played their strongest card. Miss Reed, can you prove you built the core code for ReedTech's software? The courtroom fell silent. The attorney smirked. He expected hesitation. He expected nerves. He expected doubt. What he didn't expect was for Amara to open her laptop, connect to the projector and say, yes, I can, and I will. Her screen lit up with thousands of lines of code. Her name embedded in commits, timestamps, version history, encryption tags, prototype builds, AI training logs, every line documented, every update signed, every file traceable. Then she pulled up even more. Private repository logs, timestamp development notes, recorded debugging sessions. This isn't just my work, she said. It's my fingerprint. You can't fake code this deep. You can't plagiarize progress you lived. The judge leaned in. The courtroom murmured. One journalist whispered, she didn't just bring proof. She brought receipts. But she wasn't finished. She turned to the Harrington side. You didn't sue me because I lied, she said. You sued me because I spoke. The room shook with silence. But then came the moment everything changed. Marcus stood. "Your Honor, we would like to call a witness." The Harrington attorney stood too. "Objection. New witness outside pre-approved testimony list." The judge glanced over. "Name of the witness?" Marcus replied. "A former Harrington board member." Gasps. Cameras clicked. Charles stiffened. The judge paused. Then said, "Let them speak." The doors opened. He walked in. Not a junior analyst. Not a technician. A board member. The same man who received the leaked email. The same man who wrote back, "Silence is complicity." He took the oath. Sat down. Looked at the judge, and then he told the truth. The courtroom didn't just listen, it stopped breathing, because the video the world had seen was only part of what happened. The witness described the full conversation before recording began. The mocking wasn't a joke. It was policy. Intentional humiliation. Charles didn't just question Amara's intelligence. He called her work child-level coding. He said she was a diversity prop. He told the room, and this was quoted word for word, "This is why you never hand real money to people who didn't grow up in it. They don't know how to act in elite spaces." Every word the witness said was spoken with laughter, until Marcus stood up and Charles said something darker. "Relax. She's just a girl. She'll learn her place." The courtroom was stone. The Harrington attorneys didn't move. Charles didn't blink. William Harrington closed his eyes, like a man listening to the funeral of his own legacy. Then the witness delivered the sentence that erased every legal strategy the Harrington team had prepared. They sued her not for defamation. They sued her because she refused to stay silent. And that, not the deal, is what they wanted to punish. The court no longer saw a lawsuit. They saw retaliation. The judge leaned back, expression unreadable, then finally spoke. "Miss Reed, do you have a final statement?" Amara stood. No lawyer handed her a script. No consultant fed her lines. She spoke from the place that made every headline possible. "I'm not here because I wanted attention. I'm here because they tried to turn silence into a requirement for success. I'm here because they wanted the world to believe a girl like me doesn't belong in rooms like theirs." She took a breath. "But I don't want to be the exception. I want to break the rule." Her voice didn't shake. "I want girls who look like me. Girls who are told they're too young, too loud, too different. To know they don't have to ask permission to exist in spaces they've earned." Then she turned to the Harrington table. "You thought you could erase me with a lawsuit, but all you did was amplify my voice." The courtroom erupted. A few people stood. Then more. Then almost everyone. Not cheering, respecting. The ruling was delivered the next day. Case dismissed. With prejudice. Legal fees charged to Harrington Global. But that wasn't the real verdict. The real verdict came from the world. Harrington stock crashed 42% in 1 week. Charles was removed from the board. William retired silently. And the company issued a public apology, the one they refused to give when it mattered. But it was too late, because the future had already moved on, and her name was already written in it. Months later. ReedTech and Grant Innovations launched their joint project, an AI platform built to create equitable access to education for underrepresented students. Amara was named Chief Innovation Architect, MSA. 17 news outlets stopped, calling her a prodigy. Now they called her founder, leader, visionary, and one afternoon, standing on a stage in front of students just like her, Amara said the words that became her legacy. "They tried to make me small. I built something bigger." In a quiet office, Marcus watched her speak on a live stream. Pride didn't even feel like a big enough word. Someone knocked. It was Elias Grant. "You ready?" he asked. "For what?" Marcus smiled. "For the part where she becomes bigger than all of us." Marcus nodded. "She already is. Because in the end, the story was never about a lawsuit, never about a deal, never about a boardroom. It was about a girl they tried to silence, who learned to turn her voice into power, and when she walked into the room again, she didn't just belong there, she owned it.